Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at an absolute modern technological absurdity, something that has literally plagued kitchens across the globe for nearly 2 decades now. We're talking about that wild phenomenon where the exact technology that's supposed to make our lives easier somehow ends up holding our dinner completely hostage. So, let's unpack the infamous smart cooktop lockout.
Just picture this. You come home after an incredibly long day, right? You've got your groceries, you're starving, and you are so ready to cook a nice, warm meal. You set your pan down, you go to turn on your shiny, incredibly expensive, supposedly smart induction cooktop, and it just stubbornly refuses to turn on. It sits there, blinking this little red light at you, leaving you hungry, super frustrated, and completely helpless in your very own kitchen. No way, right?
Well, we actually see this exact panic playing out on a massive scale over on the home design forum Huzz. You've got to hear what user Louisa_Smith03 writes. They say, the burners don't turn on. I'm thinking the extended warranty is not such a bad idea after all. It's just that horrible, sinking realization that you are entirely locked out of an appliance you actually own. It's like a digital padlock snapped shut and the key is just completely missing.
And man, this feeling of absolute despair just echoes through the entire community. Another user, pbrom1, literally pleads, please don't tell me I need another cooktop. What was your resolution? I mean, people are suddenly faced with this terrifying prospect of replacing incredibly expensive hardware. We're talking thousands of dollars sometimes, all over a simple singular sensor glitch. It's wild.
Section 2. When official manuals fail. Because, when you hit a problem like this, your very first instinct is to check with the manufacturer, right? So let's see how those official corporate solutions actually stack up against reality. Okay, so there is this incredibly stark contrast here between the sterile, super confident instructions from the manufacturers and the messy, really frustrating reality. The official manual confidently tells you to just, touch and hold the control lock pad for 5 seconds. Sounds simple enough. But the reality for the user? As dozens of folks report, it absolutely does not work. You press it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, nothing happens. And boom, you're immediately prompted to call a technician.
So instead of an easy, practical fix, major brands just throw you into this sprawling support labyrinth. According to Bosch's official support pages, first off, you've got to hunt down your serial number. Then search for specific owner manuals, look up these completely cryptic error codes, wade through self-help FAQs, and when all of that inevitably fails to unlock your stove, you're forced into the final step, scheduling service and repairs. It is literally a gauntlet, meticulously designed to funnel you straight toward a paid service call. And right at the end of that funnel, a pretty huge financial trap. Users in these forums report that customer service tells them there is a minimum $75 charge just to get a technician to step through your front door to diagnose the problem. And hey, that's just the baseline. From there, the technician is charging by the quarter hour. Plus, there's always that looming threat of having to replace incredibly expensive circuit boards.
Now, here's the really crucial point. This is definitely not an isolated incident for just one brand or one country. Over on YouTube, a Russian creator demonstrates this perfectly with a Zanussi cooktop. When you see that dreaded L code, which is basically the universal digital symbol for lock on these induction cooktops, it just stops all operation. So whether it's a GE model in Texas or a Zanussi in Moscow, that L code has created this massive global community of deeply frustrated, locked-out homeowners.
Moving on to Section 3, the bizarre internet fixes. Let's finally move past those useless official manuals and dive right into the wild, crowdsourced solutions. Because honestly, when the manufacturer leaves you completely in the dark with a broken lock, you better believe the internet is going to figure out a way to hack the system and get dinner back on the table.
It is absolutely fascinating to look at this timeline. We're tracing a single forum thread on Houzz that stretches across an astounding 18 years. 18! We start way back in 2006 with the very first GE profile lockouts being reported. By 2012, frustrated users are finally discovering specific physical tricks to bypass it. Then by 2016, the physical requirements literally start to escalate. And incredibly, right up to recent years, users are still logging on to report this exact same issue on brand new, right out of the box models. It really proves that this fundamental design flaw has completely outlasted multiple generations of so-called smart appliances.
And here is where human ingenuity truly shines. We get these escalating physical maneuvers just to appease this incredibly finicky sensor. Step 1 is the whole hand trick. You cover the entire sensor with a warm palm to try and trigger it. If that fails, we move to Step 2, the damp towel. You apply a slightly wet paper towel over the area just to mimic electrical conductivity. If the machine is still being stubborn, step 3 gets a bit aggressive, the forearm lean. You put your entire forearm on the lock and literally press down hard with your body weight. And finally, when all else fails, step 4, the circuit breaker.
This little eureka moment perfectly encapsulates the triumph of the everyday DIY problem solver. User Caring Wiz was facing the threat of expensive replacement boards, searched the internet in total desperation, and wrote, "I realized that the control lock key under the glass must not be positioned correctly, so put my entire hand over the key, and presto." I love that. It's just a wonderful victory for the consumer, completely bypassing that ridiculous $75 service fee.
But hey, what happens when all those physical gymnastics fail? Even when the whole hand or the damp towel trick doesn't do a thing. Users figured out that bypassing the smart controls entirely serves as the ultimate hard reset. Flipping the main kitchen circuit breaker completely off, sometimes for just 5 minutes, sometimes overnight, basically forces the machine to forget it was ever locked in the first place. You are quite literally cutting the power to the brain of the appliance just to regain control.
Finally, Section 4, Outsmarting Smart Appliances. Let's zoom out a bit here to wrap things up and really look at what this entire 18-year saga tells us about our modern kitchens and honestly, our relationship with the devices inside them.
This whole situation brilliantly illustrates a core truth about modern consumer technology. Because on one hand, we have the sterile corporate guide. It's perfectly formatted, it's confidently written, and it tells you to simply hold the button for 5 seconds. But as we've seen, it's completely useless in a crisis. On the other hand, we have these messy, real-world glitches where we just abandon those corporate scripts entirely. We end up relying on a global internet community to basically hack our way back to basic functionality using warm palms and wet paper towels. You can't make it up.
So as we continue to fill our homes with increasingly complex, so-called smart technology, it leaves us with one really provocative thought to consider the next time you go to just boil an egg. Who is really in control of your kitchen? You or the cooktop? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope you found this deep dive as fascinating as I did, and I truly, truly hope you never have to wrestle your stove just to make dinner.